There was... hello, Carol. There was a very old woman, and she lived in the clearing in the forest. Well, I always think a forest is the best place to have a clearing, isn't it? And we used to live in a clearing in the river, but it was very prone to flooding. And she lived in the clearing with her 3 children, with her 3 daughters, and they made their living by spinning. Wool, that is, not round and round in circles. Because the dervishes had already cornered the lucrative whirling market in that part of the forest. Some of these are just for me. Some of that's just for me. The only trouble is the 3rd daughter was very lazy. I know. She never did any of the spinning. Not round and round. And it got so bad that the old woman had to take the daughter out to beat her because she was so lazy. Now. She decided to beat her. Actually decided to beat her indoors, or 5 minutes earlier, or 5 minutes later. This remained a tragic story of parental abuse and slave labour. But she decided to take her outdoors at this precise moment, just when the royal hunting party went past. Yeah, and she was beaten. The Queen. Now I haven't told this story. So we were still talking about the previous one, the proper one. Yes, not the current supposed one. And she intervened in the beating, and then there was some awkward silence, as it often is when you're talking to the Queen. And then the Queen asked the sort of question the Queen often asked. So, how long have you been beating your daughter? And the old woman, not wanting to admit she had a lazy daughter, said, no, she was going to be in the forest. Don't want to confuse you with the Queen. Oh, the trouble is she works too hard. She won't stop spinning. I have to beat her to stop her spinning. And the 2 sisters can't compete. And they spin and they bleed. Their fingers bleed and it turns the wool pink. And then we have to tie it back. So I've got to beat her to stop her working. Now the Queen, out of the goodness of her heart, and not because this is a heavily wool-based economy, decided to take the daughter away from her mother and take her back to the palace, where she had a turret full of wool waiting. And she took the daughter, the 3rd daughter, lazy daughter, into this turret, and it was full of the knottiest, gnarliest, knittiest wool. Oh, it was so knitty and knotty and gnarly, and it was full of thistles and nettles and bracken and poo, mostly sheep poo. So is it? And the Queen said, "Oh yes, I will give you. I'm away for 3 days." She was going to do an Olivia Colman lookalike competition, and I'll come back in 3 days, and if you've spun all this wool, you can marry my son, the handsome prince. Now this is the kind of offer you often get in folk stories. It doesn't happen like this in real life, does it? I'm beginning to suspect the prince was quite ugly. I think the Queen had offered his hand to all the princesses and all the duchesses locally, and there had been no response. And she was happy to palm him off on the nearest craftswoman of any repute. So, and then the Queen went away for 3 days, leaving the lazy daughter in the turret full of wool with a spinning wheel there and a seat next to it. But never in the whole 3 days did she ever think of starting to spin. She just sat there crying. If you don't know what crying sounds like, this is one. Like this for 2 days and 3 nights. And it was the night before the Queen was due back, and she hadn't started this. But her cries were heard by some passers-by out on the road who were passing by. as bypassers usually do, according to onlookers who were looking on, and witnesses who saw this happening. And so they were 3 of them called up. So what ails you, child? To the crying child in the turret. And she opened let's call it a window. Let's call it a window. And looked down, and there were 3 old women looking up, and one had really big thumbs on her hands, and one had great big toes on her feet, and another one, the third one had a great big lower lip like this. And they shouted, "What ails you, child? What ails you, child?" They shouted at. And she shouted down that she told them the story in a more concise and interesting manner than I've managed to tell it so far. And and she said, "Oh," and then they said, "Oh, well, if you let us in through a door, let's say a door in the turret, we will spin the wool for you. And all we would ask is, when you marry the prince, we've heard he's a bit of a munter, but if all we ask is you let us come to your reception during the wedding." So she let them in through a door. Let's call it a door wall, and which she could have escaped through if she hadn't been so lazy. I'd only got it in the 3 days. And they came in, and they immediately set to work spinning at the spinning wheel. And the one with the big thumbs, she pulled the wool into a thin line to feed into the spinning wheel. And the one with the big feet, she pedalled the treadle, or treadle the pedal, either way is exactly the same. And the one with the big lip, she did whatever part of the spinning process is it helped by having a really big lip. And very soon the whole of the wool was spun, beautifully spun, and there was a pile of nettles and thistles and docks and poo. It was slightly bigger, strangely enough, there, but it should have been. And just in time for the Queen arrives. "Oh, you've done splendidly. You will immediately marry my handsome prince, my son." And it was all arranged suspiciously quickly. And then there was the wedding, and there was the prince who was wearing a veil. And the wedding went off, and then as soon as it was the wedding reception, and everybody was in the court dancing and singing. But then as soon as there was a knock on. We're doing this for I think we're doing this for knocking. And the courtiers, "Oh, there are 3 strange women outside. Shall we let them in?" And now the very lazy princess, as she was now, she was lazy, but she wasn't stupid. She decided to let them in, and in they came. And the people the courtiers were a bit askanced. Askanced, is that a word? Yeah, the courtiers were a bit askanced. I'm saying it's a word anyway. To see these 3 women, and they were a bit put off. But eventually, with the music and the wine and the cider and perry, the fine artisan cider and perry that was available.
Was the reception up on the 2nd floor?
There was, yes. And there weren't many people, but they were having a lovely time. And the 3 sisters began to enjoy they were dancing like this. And the prince asked, "Oh, who are these strange women?" And she said, the lazy princess said, "These are my aunties." And he said, "Why, how did they get to look so strange?" And he said, "Well, they spend all their time spinning. Wool, that is, not round and..." "I know," said the ugly prince. And in that case, though I do quite like the one with the big lip. I will say you will never have to spin. If it turns you into people like that, into these people, you'll never have to spin again. And so he took her up, and they danced round. They span round, not wool. They span round and round in circles, and lived happily ever after.
Hey.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
True story.
Another true story, yeah.